Okay, waiting for the.
Oh, good.
For the team, and the team will open.
Udah dah.
Are you the Zoom host? Are you the Zoom host? Okay, good. So, because I continuously see people entering, admitting, you click them away. Thanks so much. Can I take a photo from you guys?
Yeah.
Come at him, just stay there in the middle. Please. Great, thank you. Lovely.
Then we official photo with the team. We are waiting for the team for opening.
Okay.
Ya, bisa dipanggil Pak Hasan ya. Karena kalau kamu nggak bisa ya. Tidak boleh. Ya, oh iya. Oh, so the team is still on the meeting, so the boss will only open Dewi.
Okay.
Pak Hamsa nggak bisa itu buka aja.
Cek, cek, cek.
Yeah. Waiting for the boss coming.
All good.
Okay, yeah. Zoom-nya later already, but you want to see the because yeah. Okay. So already the Zoom already there. Okay, see Zoom already there. Yeah. 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 Okay, I start today. Yeah, I'm MC. Okay. Ira. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you once again very much for this opportunity. Because this is new. Actually, it was like laboratory management, but now we try to implement a new curriculum, which is a life safety. This lecture will be provided by our guest professor from Germany, Professor Dirk Erpenbeck. He is also my previous PhD supervisor in Germany, in Munich. So yeah, and he is also a lab manager in the molecular lab. So he will share about what is should do in the lab and what is shouldn't do in the lab. So he will share, and then afterward you can learn how different or how is the safety procedure in Germany, the difference between safety procedure in Germany and in Indonesia. And then of course you may ask question, how about the safety and etc. And I promise it will be a nice lecture from him. Okay, before we starting that, I just ask Bu Dewi, Professor Dewi, to open this opportunity to this lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Edwin. Before we start this class, please give applause for Prof. Dick and Pak Edwin that organized this lecturing very well. So firstly, I would like to thank you for Professor Dirk, that today will share about the introduction of biosafety. As you know, the university and Ludwig University, Maximilis University, they have a good laboratory and of course their biosafety. So I hope this lecture will be useful for you, especially if you want to go to abroad. You have to know how the biosafety, and hopefully you can have more knowledge about the biosafety. As you know, in Indonesia, biosafety is not very well to practice. So by this lecture, hopefully open the student as well as the lecturer to more concern about the biosafety. So officially, I would like to open this for first class, for Professor Dick. With officially, I open this visiting professor. And time for you, Dr. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Pleasure.
Before you
Somewhere in the middle, right?
Like this. Okay, like this is okay. With Bu Dewi,
Of course.
Ini dulu.
just student.
Ya Allah, ternyata aku on cam anjir. Halo.
Yeah. Thank you very
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
So now time is yours.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the kind words, Professor Davy. All right. Thanks for the kind words, Professor Davy. Thanks for inviting me over, Dr. Edwin. It's a great honor and it's a great pleasure for me being here and sharing a little bit of knowledge and also learning something from you, I hope, in a way. So when Dr. Edwin asked me, hey, Dirk, could you please come over and tell something about biosafety? I got quite some flashbacks because biosafety is in our university a topic which is never a fun topic to deal with. Yeah, you always think biosafety is boring, biosafety is unnecessary, because you would rather like to be in the lab and do some cool stuff and skip all this necessary safety stuff. And usually, yeah, what you know from movies, yeah, all the labs are these sparkling, new, brand new places, everything cleaned up and everything tidy and nice, and with young, beautiful scientists in there, and everything is going completely spotless. Then you see a real lab and you see, yeah, things are slightly different in the real world. So yes, this means you get the idea. Some modifications, some more adaptations in terms of lab safety should be done. And lab safety, I have to bring that in my own university. I'm in charge of that, unfortunately. Can be tedious, can be situations like these ones here that all the audience thinks, oh my goodness, when is this now finally over? And then something like a couple of years ago, I was visiting a university. That was me. Maybe we can solve these. All right, all good? Thanks a lot. Good. A couple of years ago, I was invited to visit another university. I'm a biologist, and I had to do some biochemistry over there, and I could visit the biochemistry lab to work there for the next 4 years, 4 weeks. And this lab, I won't mention where it was, I won't mention which one it was for me a real eye-opener, how important lab safety is. Because I entered the lab and things looked like something like this over here. So you see, this is not one of these typical labs that you find in the movies. No, actually not. You see, everything is crowded. Lots of stuff is put on the benches. You can't even squeeze through there. Another image over here. You see the difference between the sink and the benches. Something like that one here. I'm fortunately still kind of slender and I could make my way through there. But yeah, well, if I would have too many burgers, I would have pretty much problems to get away there without removing all these glass flasks over here. So you see lots of safety hazards. So my favorite picture. Now I'd like to ask you guys, what's wrong in this picture of this actual lab? Where do you see any kind of safety hazards? What would you see? Maybe you have an idea. What is something that should be definitely removed or not done? Yes, please. Of course, absolutely right. You could walk over there and you take everything, tumble over that, and you take the entire aperture from the fume hood lying on the ground. You don't want to have that. What else? Yes, please. The ice box. Yes. I hope it's only ice, but maybe sample in there together with ice, and you know, this is not very firm on the table, can easily fall. Right. What else? Some more things that might now pop into your eyes. Any idea? Ladies, gentlemen. Other things, like, for example, of course, this will not work here. The plastic bag you see on the bottom there. Yes, exactly. Easily you slip there and fall. Another ice box here, conveniently with umbrellas. Of course, you need them inside all the time there. Anyway. So you see a lot of hazards. Textbooks, examples how a lab should not work. However, it's still a successful lab, but this is a hazard, no doubt. Over here, I love that. Chemicals on the bottom, yeah? Organic solvents, probably something rather nasty. You fall over it, you trip over it. This is just, you know, chaos in the making. What else? You get an idea how cramped it is. Personal space is directly shared with lab space. So they wrote their PhD and master's thesis on site. Yeah, and behind them, there was somebody at the fume hood doing some dangerous stuff. You don't want that. You see, everything was very cramped in there. They put things on the top of incubator rooms. That means to remove everything, they had to climb over lots of things. All right. Maybe I'm too close to this microphone. Maybe I should switch off this microphone here. Is it switched off? Oh, no. Give it a try.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, nevertheless, in the lab was shared with lots of very brilliant scientists. On the right-hand side, he was my advisor, chemistry advisor. I'm not a chemist. Brilliant guy. And also supervising somebody else. What is wrong in that picture? What do you think? Lab coat, no lab coat. What else?
They didn't cover.
Again?
They didn't cover their legs with long trousers.
Oh, long trousers. It's not such a big issue here. But what else? Gloves, exactly. Naked hand, organic solvents. Organic solvents are much nastier than acids or other things because they go through the skin and do some stuff that you notice only years and years and years later. Yeah, acids, fortunately, you feel it immediately if something goes wrong, but some organic solvents just after a couple of years. So yes, you're absolutely right. Other hazards were just sudden steps, sudden drops here. Oh, this one here, I love that one. You see at the bottom a bunch of bottles where the original label has been removed or just overwritten with some tape. And then written in their own language what is now actually filled inside. For me as a foreigner, impossible to understand what's there. And you don't know which label of these 25 labels they put on there is not actually the right one. Which one is that one to use now? So for me as a foreign guest there, it was a nightmare to work. Two more of my dear colleagues. What's wrong here in the picture? You might not see it immediately. I'll zoom in a little bit. What is this lady doing wrong here? Don't hear you. She's eating, yes. So, chemicals, eating chemicals. Something definitely wrong there. You know, this is a clear no so far in the lab. So, other things like they had the huge blenders for to extract tissue directly on the bottom. Yes, you could stumble over it, or you could step in the blender and you're full of invertebrate juice and other things. The only protective measurements in terms of clothing they had were some shoes, but I guess this was more ceremonial than just the real reason that they took protective shoes. So you see, this lab was full of trouble from the beginning to the end. Highly productive lab, excellent results, but in terms of safety, a complete mess. 1 year ago, I got an email from the professor who's running the lab. Sorry that I was in contact for a while. My lab has been burned out. We try to recover everything, but it will take some while. And seeing the pictures of that lab, you understand how this could happen. Because everything is tapped, everything is piled up in terms of dangerous things. It's just a question of time until something happens. The lab burned down entirely. Fortunately, no casualties, nobody was injured, but the work for months and months and years destroyed. PhD students had to interrupt their thesis, master students had to postpone their graduation, etc. With a little bit of safety measures, this could have been easily prevented. And therefore, we still have to be aware that this can happen anytime, everywhere. It's not only that foreign lab I was there where these things can happen. This is in Germany, University of Bayreuth, 2008. There was a fume hood with some applications, and there was a PhD student working on it, and suddenly a huge explosion that big that the entire wall, we cannot see it with a pointer, on the left picture from your view, the entire wall came out, and the student was heavily injured, fortunately survived, but you see this can happen basically everywhere. independently, whether you work here or when you graduate somewhere else, or you do your visiting scientific life or PhD somewhere else, we need some basic ideas, basic rules of safety just to make sure that you are conducting safe work continuously. So therefore, of course, you know the basic rules, yeah? In the lab, no eating, no drinking, no putting up of cosmetics. Of course, we want you guys to be pretty in the lab, no doubt, yeah, but yeah, cosmetics in the lab, that means yeah, lipstick, yeah, putting something on your skin inside the lab, never a good idea, because there still could be something in the environment that gets directly in contact with your pretty harmful skin. Simple stuff. You might roll your eyes. Oh, my goodness. Okay, now he's going through that. Don't worry. Because you all know that lab coats are important, right? Because lab coats are actually the sign of science. If you wear a lab coat, yeah, then directly everybody knows you are a scientist and you will do cool stuff at some stage later on. Of course, there is questions. How do you know wear your lab coat? Yeah, upside down, inside out, proper, and even run to the canteen with your lab coat just to show that you are cool and an academic, whatever. As long as you wear the lab coat, all should be fine. Because if you do not wear the lab coat, some interesting things can happen, such as this guy here, who was probably rather lucky that he was wearing his lab coat, probably sitting on his bench, working with some acids or alkalics, whatever, which then dropped and everything was somehow running onto his lab coat. You don't want that. I guess this guy was pretty lucky. He's probably still smiling and showing and happy that his image is shown now all over the world. Likewise, shoes. Of course, this is here a sandal and flip-flop region, yeah, let's say it like that. But imagine this guy would have been wearing sandals and flip-flops. All the acids would have nicely been running down onto his toes and try to stand without toes. That's not fun at all until the end of your life. So in our lab, we have mandatory closed shoes. Toes covered is sufficient, yeah. So you still can slip into easy shoes, but the toes must be covered, particularly due to something like this one over here. What else? Gloves. Gloves. You don't know how much is to talk about gloves. There's gloves and there's gloves and there's gloves, and usually the gloves that you use, correct me if I'm wrong, Edwin, are the classical latex gloves. What do these latex gloves protect you against? Who knows? Any idea? Are they good against acids, alkalics, ethanol, methane? Again? Exactly. They were rather large molecules. So all the microorganisms, yeah, viruses, where we went through the COVID time, bacteria, cross-contaminations, all these huge things, they are nicely protected. You are nicely protected against these kind of contamination. This is latex gloves, but that's basically it. Don't feel safe in these gloves. When you'd like to know whether you should wear this kind of gloves for your experiment, check the glove box itself. And there are labels on this glove box. And these labels will tell you what these gloves are protecting you against. Most of these gloves will have this biohazard icon. Yeah, it's easy. The biohazard are usually large organisms or large components. They will not make it through a glove at all. Yeah, but chemicals. You see on the left-hand side, you see this beaker with a question mark. That means it is definitely not tested against any kind of chemical. If you want to have your glove protecting you against chemicals, you have to make sure there's a different icon on it. This icon you see there on the left-hand side with the 3-letter code at the bottom tells you, hey, this graph is protecting me against something. Namely, this 3-letter code tells you which of all these different classical types of molecules the graphs have been tested against. So either organic solvents up to acids. There's a letter code with representative molecules against which for a certain period of time, you see the numbers down here, these graphs are tested. And if you find a 3-letter code like A, B, and C, then you know against these certain, oops, that's a bit fast. Against these 3 different types of molecule classes, your graphs protect you again. So always check for these codes and don't think that your LaTeX graphs protect you against anything. Unfortunately, they don't. If you're unsure, there are these amazing tables. You find them on the web. Maybe we find them in the lab as well, where for all this kind, who's doing that? Where for all kind, seriously, where for all kind of different chemicals, the usage of latex, neoprene, it's a touch screen. Nobody told me. Hey, we are in candid camera here. Good. All right. So let's stay away from this thingy here, yeah? Right. Good. So for which type of chemical these individual thingies, the individual materials of glass will protect you against? Yeah, you might be surprised. For some, latex is still all right. Yeah. Some require nitrine, some require neoprene. Take the right suite of glass. Think in advance what you're going to work with and choose certainly then the proper type of glass. Glasses, okay, yes, I don't want to get too much into detail here. In my lab, we say that the following: if you do with something dangerous, which could potentially harm your eyes, wear safety glasses. If that's not the case, then it's to the discretion of the lab manager whether they have to be used or not. So Edwin, for this lab, it's up to you to decide when, at what stage safety glasses should be used, right? So I don't want to interfere here. All right, so now, what's wrong in this image? Yes, you're laughing, but why? Any ideas? Or somebody else? Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you need to know how to operate the
I would prefer that as well, that he knows in advance what he is doing. Yes. And even if you're not talking about the MRI machines, the same applies to your lab equipment. Make yourself familiar with it first before you start. So therefore, we have, that's a picture from our lab, we have, because it's mandatory in Germany, we have at all our equipment the so-called operation manuals, how these individual equipment types are to be used. Don't touch any of the machines without introduction first. Not only because you might be injured or you might injure someone else, but also, I don't know how that's handled in Indonesia. In Germany, the universities are not injured, are not insured. So if you drop a machine, the machine is lost. Better?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe some people still have microphones on or whatever. Anyway, so I'll try it from here. Good. works like a charm. Good. So our universities are not insured. That means dropping or breaking something means for all upcoming generations, if the machine is not replaced by the chair or by the professor, you cannot work with it anymore. And this will make you very, very unpopular in the lab, trust me. So therefore, we have all these kind of suggestions how to properly use these machines, not so straightforward as these ones here, yeah, but anyway, if you haven't used a machine for a while, you can therefore easily remember and follow the rules how everything is done safely. They look like something like this one over here. Also with where the first aider, what to do if something goes wrong, etc., etc. So, you know, for steering, for using this machine, all you need to know. And we have the same for chemicals. Yes, we have operation guidelines for chemicals. Yeah, so we know, this is unfortunately in German because I didn't find an English counterpart anyway, but this is for hypochloric acid. Yeah, how to use them, what kind of measurements you have to take. And if you don't know in advance how to use a chemical, it's a good idea to read these things first. And you might come across in your career chemicals which you use for the very first time. What do you do then? The first thing you do is look at the label. You see these reddish diamonds there. They give you first impression what to be aware of with this particular chemical. This is now getting international, the so-called global harmonized system in which you get the crude idea what is actually the threat of this particular chemical. If you see this icon, what do you think? What does this icon tell you? Ladies, gentlemen, yes, please. Cancer? Oh, not that bad yet. Yeah, but we cannot exclude it. At least definitely a health hazard, which means can be carcinogenic or mutagenic, which pretty much belongs together, but can also be anything else. So you will, when you get in touch with that in a not proper way, you might feel differently after eating, drinking, or whatever. Yeah, so don't. That's the easy one, right? Flammable, okay, that was too easy. Flammable, fluorophoric, self-heating, whatever, whatever. You get the picture. But that one, the exclamation mark. Again? Yes, that means. So if you get exclamation mark, yeah. So if you have a chemical with that thingy on it, what does it tell? Irritant. For example, you might not die immediately, yeah, but it might cause, you know, some pretty unwell being, etc. Yeah, irritant, slight toxicity, and so mildly, but you'd like to avoid this. Okay. So what you are having here, this thing here, it's like a cricket. Is it one of these cricket thingies? Or what are we talking about here? Exactly, it's a gas cylinder, the gas is under pressure. It's an easy one. That one here, corrosive, exactly. You should definitely not take it too deep. Look into it, right? That one here, I hope you might not deal with that at all. Explosive, yeah, that's easy. That one. You are in a circus and there is a burning ring through which a tiger is jumping. Yes. No, that's not it. Oxidizer. You looked it up, right? Good, oxidizer. So what we're having here, fish upside down. Environmental hazards. Exactly. No, that one here, the most popular. This is acute toxicity. Yeah, skull and crossbones means this is even worse than the very first that we've had. So you might therefore find on the label of your chemical an array of these things, together with some descriptive items. These descriptive items are the so-called H and P statements. H for hazard, P for precautionary. H, what can happen if you do not take the P, precautionary statements. Sometimes in codes with these numbers, H220, health hazard 220, or hazard 220, here extremely flammable. And the P statements can also be in codes. So you have, therefore, if you have the proper list with it, you can therefore directly, even if you never used this chemical before, check out how to use it, and in case trouble comes, what to do with it. This is what you should find on the chemical bottles, ideally. And so you have already, looking at it, a fair chance to handle it properly. However, if you're very new and to a very new chemical, and the lab never used it before, and you order it, the chemical always comes with a leaflet. This leaflet is a so-called material safety data sheet, MSDS. It's a couple of pages, sometimes 8, 9, 10 pages, telling you everything about the chemical you might not need immediately, but you might want to know later. Such as, first of all, where it's from, what are the hazards, what's happening when you eat it, what's happening when you breathe it, what to do if it's burning, etc. Pages by pages by pages, just information about that stuff. And also one important thing, namely how to dispose it. Imagine you buy the super duper highly carcinogenic reagent, you have it in the lab, you work successfully with it, you finish with your master or your bachelor or your PhD thesis, and then you say, and you still have a leftover in the bottle, and you think, okay, now what? What am I doing with it? So in there, it also tells you how to dispose it properly. This is, in these times, with environmental hazards, not unimportant. All these MSDS should, in a lab, be safe in a centralized place. This is from our lab, where we have these folders with this MSDS from every single chemical that we are working with. We have this MSDS in these folders. You can also look them up digitally, but it's by law for us required also to have them in physical copies over there, alongside these operation manuals, by the way. Good. You can, however, save lots of trouble with dangerous goods by checking out if you can do the same experiment with a much less dangerous substitute. So why buying a super duper highly carcinogenic, well working, but still very dangerous reagent if there's a substitute which is much, much, much more harmless, and therefore you can easily use as well. So do the theory in advance, plan in advance, think in advance, what do I need? Maybe we have it in the lab already. And if you have to order it, what do I have to do with it? What measurements, what for disposal and for storing it, what is all necessary here? Good. Now you have this reagent. Toxic, hazardous, corrosive, so all these beauties one of these chemicals can have. Where do you work with it in the lab? On your bench, close to your least favorite lab mate? Where do you work with it in the lab? Or in the air, not to pollute anything else? Where would you work with a chemical with these icons on it in the lab? So you open the bottle, you put it from A to B. Where do you do that? In the kitchen? Please. acid table. Yeah, I guess we're getting close to that here. But still, on an acid table, you still can get all the fumes, I guess, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry, that was, I was confused. Yes, but so these acid chambers, maybe you mean the same? The fume hoods. Yeah? Did you mean them? Just say yes. Yes, you meant them, yeah? Okay, good. So the fume hoods. You have one in the lab. I've seen them here, yeah, right? These are very important places because you handle everything which is dangerous there in a rather safe way without harassing all your other lab mates. Fume hoods are notorious because it's a great place to park basically everything there, which is dangerous, which could be dangerous, which looks dangerous, and you don't want to have any kind of responsibility there. So this is a cartoon of a typical lab fume hood, how it should not be somehow. It's clogged, it's of course, and used as a kind of disposal area for chemicals. That's not the way a fume hood should be like. How does a fume hood work? Who of you worked with a fume hood already? Nobody? Okay, now you learned something, definitely. So, the fume hood has a laminar airflow. That means air is getting in and is then turned around. It's turned around in a way that definitely nothing from inside can somehow get out. You see it over there. Assume the light blue squares are the kind of laboratory setup, yeah? And there's a continuously air going then through the opening down there. This is laminar current, which is maintained in the fume hood, and then all the air with all the toxic and whatever fumes is then going out to the chimney with a filter, etc. safe. So you are not getting in contact with it at all. This, however, will not work if everything is clogged with a huge apparatus or with waste or with bottles or with a pizza from last week or whatever. Yeah, because then this laminar flow cannot occur. And in fact, the air is getting up, but it's getting back to you, and all the toxic air is coming back to you. You don't want that. So therefore, leave the fume hoods as empty as possible, so that this laminar flow is possible. However, sometimes you have a huge you require a huge setup. Oh, by the way, this is a picture from our lab where I was criticizing that everything is clogged in the fume hood with water bars, styrofoam boxes, and other things which still have to evaporate. This is not the way it should be. If you need lots of stuff in the fume hood, yeah, like a big apparatus with distillery or whatever, how do we handle that? You just put a bunch of blocks under the apparatus so that air can go under it, and therefore still make sure that you get this laminar flow, and which keeps you therefore safe. Yeah, think of that. It's easy that the fume hoods are clogged and suddenly you don't notice it, and suddenly you are exposed to all these chemistries, and you definitely don't want that. Bunsen burner in the fume hood. Sometimes you want that. Yes, no problem. Do it, but do it the proper way. Bunsen burner, as a Bunsen burner produces hot air, it will interfere certainly with this laminar flow. So what do you have to do? If you put that Bunsen burner in that direction where this flow is, so don't have the Bunsen burner at the very beginning, at the very start of your fume hood, because there's actually the air in theory coming down, but the hot air is produced, so therefore the air is going up, so therefore you don't get this laminar flow. Put it in the back. Okay, you need some longer arm sometimes, yeah, but it works much safer, much better. Bunsen burner, always in the back. Make sure that at every moment you have this laminar flow. Good. So now you know. This is a fume hood. What is it thingy which looks like a fume hood on the right-hand side? Okay, why do we need that? When do we use that? You're right. Yeah. What is that right thingy? What's the difference with a left thingy here? When do we need the chamber on the right-hand side? Not to be confused with the left-hand side. Yes, please. Yeah. Sterile conditions. But these are two different things. Working with dangerous things and working with sterile conditions. So the fume hoods you should use to work with dangerous things. In the other, if you want to work sterile, you use this sterile workbench where you get a laminar flow as well, but in a different direction. And if you work with chemicals in there, these chemicals can come against you. Here, see the difference. That side, sterile workbench, looks the same on the first glimpse, but is completely functionally different. Fume hood, you make sure that air is getting in and whatever of your sample is fuming out, you will not get in contact. And the sterile workbench, you have your sample, but you want to make sure that nothing from the dirty outside air is touching your sample. This is to work sterile. So what's happening first? On the green arrow, you see the air is getting sucked in, but it's not touching the sample. It's getting sucked in and then behind the laminar flow, first going, you follow the red arrows to the filters, the purple HEPA filters. There the air is cleared from all spores, from all bacteria, from all whatever you don't want to have. And then the clean air is then let into the chamber. Completely different from what's happening here. On the right-hand side, in the sterile workbench, we cannot guarantee that you will stay safe in terms of toxins. However, you make sure that whatever you work with your sample, is not getting in contact with contaminations from the air. There's complete two different approaches. So think wisely. Am I just using hazardous material? Then I use a fume hood? Or do I want to work sterile? And I therefore use the sterile workbench. In the fume hood, I cannot work sterile because lots of air is sucked in. So the dirty air from outside, I will immediately contaminate everything when I put it into my fume hood. That's not the reason why I use a fume hood. I just want not to be exposed to all the chemicals. So if you work then with microbiological preparations, you should, of course, use a sterile workbench. But when you see that, when you start with microbiology and your agar plates with bacteria are getting old and moldy and fungus is growing over it, don't use the sterile workbench anymore, because the spores of the fungi will be directly sucked up. The spores of the fungi will get into the filter and then contaminate from that moment basically everything you do in the sterile workbench. It's good for bacterial work, not producing spores. It's good for virus work or anything else that should stay sterile, but do not work with fungi and with those fungi that produce lots of spores. They will mess up your sterile workbench and it costs thousands of dollars to exchange the filter. You don't want that, definitely. By the way, if you have questions in between, please, anytime directly, yeah? Just raise your hand or somebody give me a sign if there's in Zoom world a question, yeah? Please feel free to let me know immediately. Good. So, storage. of chemicals. What you see in the top are safety cabinets for organic solvents. Organic solvents are burning like hell. Ethanol, methanol, acetone, chloroform, all these things should therefore be brought in these kind of specialized drawers. I opened this from our lab. I opened the drawer. You see this big black line here. This black line is a specific feeling. When there is fire in this drawer, unfortunately, all the organic solvents are in this drawer. The drawer closes itself automatically. And then this thick black thingy is expanding. And by expanding, it blocks the oxygen supply. And therefore, all the fire in here will hopefully be extinguished, suffocated immediately. This will therefore help us for at least 1.5 to 2 hours, that something which is burning inside here will stay there, will burn, maybe suffocate immediately, and if not, these walls are withstanding 90 to 120 minutes of fire in there, long enough to get the fire brigade to get out or whatever else. All other chemicals, like acids and bases, never put them on the same shelf. Put them in separate drawers. Who of you had chemistry, at least some chemistry? Unorganic, organic chemistry? Would happen, yes, exactly. So you get a very endothermic reaction if you put an acid and a base together in high quantities, and this is nothing you definitely want. So have the acids together, have the bases, the alkalics together in well-ventilated chambers, please. But make sure that they, even when something is breaking, they're not flowing somehow together. Good. So what's wrong in this picture? Always happening in our lab. This is such a design flaw. This is a chemical drawer. You open it and you close it, and the cable just sticks in there. That means if something is burning inside here, it will not close automatically, and the lab will be nicely on fire at a certain moment if something is burning. You don't want that, definitely. Anyway, this is pretty much a design. So now a quiz to you. Question is, what's that? Yes, please. It is? It's a chemical compound. Yeah, which one? I don't know. Other things. HCl. HCl would be liquid. I don't know. Could be. Water. No, it's not water. It's not water. I'm sorry. Thanks for trying, but it's not water. Maybe somebody from the back. What is that? Or from the front? Any ideas? Yeah.
I think it's like a form of crystal from the salt, or maybe reaction between acid and base on the.
Could be. Could be. Yeah, could be. So I have to admit, I don't know either what that is. But I find it sometimes close to our balance. And I have no idea what that is. A person, my lab worker before me was working with it, and I just find this white powder here. And I don't know, I want to work now nicely and sterile, and I have no clue what that is. I'd like to dispose it, but I don't know what it is. Is it dangerous? Is it harmless? Is it, I don't know, is it sugar? Is it salt? Whatever. And if I don't know it, how should I dispose that at all? So that means when you work with shared equipment, it's your responsibility, please, to keep everything clean, because nobody knows what that is. Yeah, do we have to call the fire brigade to remove that stuff? Yeah, or what is it? So please work clean. Okay, in this case, it's agarose. It's our agarose balance over there. Edwin, you still should know it from our active phrases chambers. Yeah, so I'm pretty positive that that's it. But you know, it's such a nice example for, oh, great, there's some messy worker before me. What shall I do with it? Or even worse, here, people leave the lab and they leave us with some inheritance. These bottles, completely unlabeled what it is. I know who it was, MD, you know who it was, yeah? And then this lovely sticker. Please don't use or dispose. Great, thank you. This is what I'd like to read. Dark, unknown liquid can be anything. Great. Do we have to autoclave it? Do we have to sterilize it? Do we have to, you know, explode it in a controlled way? Or what should we do with it? Oh, on the right-hand side here, white powder in this bottle, at least now close to the balance. What is this? People leave the lab, leave the benches, yeah, and me as a lab manager, I'm stuck there with a mess, and I have no clue what to do with that stuff. So please, work tidy and label. And label, 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 label. Keep on labeling. I'll get, when we have time later, to the labeling issue. Because if your bench looks like something like that one here, yeah, what I found during my visit of this infamous lab a couple of years ago, we will not get any further with that. I guess you get the picture. Likewise, in every lab, there's a fridge. And the fridges are notorious for these things. Because you put things in the fridge and you close the door and that's it. It's not even on your bench. It migrates further and further to the back, maybe to the permafrost in the back of your fridge, yeah, and it gets icy there and it stays there, yeah. Therefore, everything in the fridge needs to be labeled. And if I find in my lab something unlabeled, things are thrown out, no question asked. This is one of the best ways to teach everyone to work nicely and clean. And of course, we can have bad luck. We take all the measurements, we work clean, we work tidy, we have our lab coats on, the proper gloves, the closed shoes, goggles if necessary. Yes, we hate goggles, but sometimes they are necessary. And then you still drop something. Can happen, yeah. We're all clumsy, some more, some less. Yeah, we're all in a way clumsy. What do you do in the case of spilling? You know what chemical you work with. You can check the MSDS and check out what's happening. Most labs, however, don't know if it's here the case as well, have so-called spill kits. This is pretty convenient. This is our lab where we have actually our spill kit, so it's actually taken from there. These spill kits consist out of usually a powder, which is binding either the acids or the alkalics or organics, depending on what you're spilling. You should know what you're spilling because you spilled it, so you should know it. And then all kinds of measurements to take everything safely up and dispose it. With a good guideline in there. The important thing is that you clean it up, that you take measurements. Don't say, hey, crap, I spilled, you know, the acid. Oh, And you go home, and then next morning, Dr. Edwin sees that you can look from the first floor to the ground floor because the acid make a big hole in there. That's not the way it should be. If you handle immediately, all will be good. Accidents can happen. Don't be ashamed. Accidents can happen. Let's talk about accidents. You are here, first year, second year, third year? Third, fourth, fifth. All right, good. So you should know in this building, at least definitely when you work in the lab, where you find all the safety measurements, where to find a first aid kit, where is your first aider, fire extinguisher, and the emergency number. Imagine something is burning. May I ask you, what number? Yes, what number would you call to get the fire brigade? Which number would you phone up to get the fire brigade? 119? I hear 119 here. I hear 112. It would be. It would be a good idea after years of working and living here to know what number to call in case of problems. All right? I usually ask this our foreign guests, which come from the US, they phone up 911. Those from Sweden phone up 000. Those from Spain take any other random number, I don't know. So first thing, when you work in the lab, know where to get aid from. Don't rely on the fact that somebody might be around who might know that you get the fire brigade at 119. No, because you don't get it maybe under 119. So know that number, right? So, good. Then, inside the lab, independent which lab you are, independent whether it's here or whether you do a PhD in the States or wherever else, there are some basic, emergency equipments. Use them if necessary. Everyone is afraid to use a shower. Yeah, because, oh my, I make a huge mess here if I pull that thingy. Yes, you make a mess, but you will save your health. And this is much more worth. Emergency shower, emergency switches for electric power on and off. Think where they are. Look when you enter a lab, where they are, that you are prepared. Fire extinguishers, use them. People think, also in Germany and wherever, oh my goodness, I have a fire here. If I use a fire extinguisher, that makes a huge mess and people will point at me and ask, who of you has used a fire extinguisher once? Never? Okay, sometimes there's possibilities to use them for testing, just to get the feeling. These things are heavy, yeah? Be aware of that. But these things work best if you use them. They're not working from standing at the wall. The university provides the fire extinguishers to prevent worse things to happen. They will not, and trust me, and trust me in this, they will not blame you for making a mess of it. We had in our lab students working with ethanol and a Bunsen burner, yeah, to sterilize things. Ethanol, Bunsen burner can work. It's not a good idea to have them too close to each other. Use the forceps, blame the forceps. There was unfortunately still a droplet of the ethanol which got into fire. Ethanol burns with a blue flame, so you don't see it immediately. They put it back into the ethanol, and the beaker with ethanol got into fire. So far, so good. Nobody yet harmed. They were utterly embarrassed. So we have to extinguish the fire now. What shall we do? What did they do? Don't have anything here like that. They took paper towels and put it on the beaker. Paper towels on a burning glass of ethanol. They tried to suffocate the fire. Of course, that didn't work. Instead, we had beautiful small snippets of burning paper going through the air by the heat, by the hot air, making everything worse. Then our technician came, saw things are not going good here, took the fire extinguisher, extinguished, finished. Next day, the fire extinguisher was exchanged, finished. No questions asked. Your university is happy that you use the fire extinguisher in case of a fire. Therefore, that thingy is there. Use it, use it, use it. Please, don't be afraid. Of course, if Edwin has to report that within a week you have to go through 6, 7 fire extinguishers, university might ask, hey, you're doing something wrong here, yeah? But this is probably not the case, yeah? So please use the fire extinguishers in case of trouble. Also make yourself familiar with other things, like this is a picture from our university, where are emergency buttons like fire alarm, defibrillator, smoke outlet. Some things might not be here at all, or might not necessary here at all. Yeah, but it's good to know in advance. Helps you so much trouble. Then, although you had your safety glasses on, you tried everything good, you got something still, unfortunately, in your eyes. These things on the sink over there are eye showers. And the eye showers are there to take first aid when you get something in your eyes. And they work best if you also use them. So, what's the first thing? May I ask you, what's the first thing that will happen when you get something into your eye? Yes, you try, ideally. The first thing you do is probably you close your eyes, right? Then the eye shower won't work if you have your eyes closed, seriously. Therefore, force your eyes open. Use the eye shower. Put your head in the back. Rinse from inside to outside, 10 minutes at least. If you cannot keep your eyes open, ask somebody else to force your eyes open. If you have contact lenses, try to remove it. It might be difficult, but rinse, 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 10 minutes at least, and then see the doctor. But rinse with water first. Locate where is the eye shower in your lab, yeah? Not that you have to look for it when you have something in your eyes anyway, yeah? And then use it. Please use it. There we are. In our case, push buttons, rinse, more than 10 minutes. Head in the back, rinse from inside to outside. And take your time with it. Washing everything out is very important. Yes, you make a mess on the bottom, on the floor. Yes, your scarf and your hair and will be messed up. Yes, no doubt, but your eyesight is much more important with that. Trust me on that. Now, in most laboratories, maybe even here, everything regarding emergency measurements is summed up in an emergency plan. There must be, at least in Germany, one in every room where it says what to do in a case of emergency. Now we know to get the fire brigade or the paramedics, you just call 112. Yeah? You pick up the phone and say, fire. This will not help. On the emergency plan, you even get the details what to do in this case. Namely, how to have this call. Who's calling? How many are involved? How many casualties? Where is it happening? The fire brigade will stop the call, not you. They need all the information first. Okay? So don't be too hasty with that stuff. Make sure they have all the details. The more they know, the quicker they can be here. And all other details you can find on this particular emergency plan, which you find in most of the labs wherever you might work, Don't know if there's some are here. It depends on the regulation of the country, but of course they will help you quite a lot. And even if with a fire extinguisher and whatever else, you cannot control the fire, make sure you know how to get out. What is the emergency, the evacuation plan? Running out, screaming, okay, running out is not too bad, yeah, but of course, where are the emergency exits? Here, view from the Munich labs again, yeah, which never should be blocked, like we had it here with, of course, that thingy here and with the styrofoam boxes and whatever else. This is not the way it should be. Somehow, of course, in case of fire, don't take the elevators, yeah, take stairs instead, and then you assemble. Where do we assemble here? Where's the assembly spot? At the parking lot. And why do we do that? So we can see, hey, university is burning, and we take YouTube photos and YouTube videos and say, yay, no class for the next couple of weeks. No, why do we assemble? Why do we assemble afterwards? Yes, please. Everybody is safe. In particular, we do not have to risk that a fireman is going in here, risking his life if nobody is here anymore. Yeah? So just to count that everybody made it out safely. Don't go home, have your dinner or whatever else. Please report them at the assembly point. And still, some things don't have to be that big and bad. Minor injuries always happen. You work with a scalpel, you work with a forceps, you work with sharp things. Anyway, minor injuries occur. You have a first aid kit somewhere here, I guess, right? Together with a first aid kit, there's mostly, in most labs, you have a first aid book in which these minor injuries are reported. And why that? It's not so that in 20 years we can read and say, this guy was particularly clumsy. No, it's just, excuse me, please. It's just so we know maybe there's some workflows that are very prone to accidents and therefore should be considerably improved in this respect. Yeah. So this book is then just for the lab managers to understand, hey, usually when we're extracting DNA or when we are working in aquaria, something is happening. So we must take some measurements there. This occurred now over a period of several months that we are running now out of plaster because this happened. So therefore, we have to do something about that. So each injury, please tell the person in charge if something's happening. Also that if this minor injury gets a little bit larger, yeah, and you might have to be brought to hospital, that we already know that this could have been due to, in the beginning, a minor injury, which turned to be then rather nasty. Lots of things can, however, be prevented if you not work alone in the lab. I don't know the policy here. It's the discretion of your lab manager, yeah, whether working in the lab is allowed. I allow working in the lab if I know it's safe, just to pick up data or whatever else. Usually it's better to have your congenial lab mate there, yeah, that if something is happening to person one, that person two can always get help. If this is not possible, at least make sure your parents, friends, or whoever else know that you're in the lab and they know when you expect to be out of the lab again. And if you're not around then at that time, that they will call for help. Because obviously you're in the lab, you might be trapped there, you might be inconscient, etc. It's not so cool. If you work alone in the lab, of course, you have lots to do in the lab. You faint Friday night, Monday morning you're found again. It's not a pretty sight. really. And it's lots of paperwork afterwards. So therefore, make sure there is always somebody with you, particularly if your experiments are not so, if they are rather dangerous. Or do it simple, just plan your lab work better. I cannot properly work at 3 o'clock in the morning anymore. Yeah, so therefore, this is not my prime time. Okay, lab is empty at that time, but yeah, the productivity.
Because everybody working after 5 or alone, because somehow in Indonesia they have like haunted culture or something like that.
Okay, good.
So all of students will not work alone.
Here in Indonesia, in that moment you go abroad to a different lab. Your supervisor might say, my lab is open 24 hours. Use it, make use of it. Particularly in the Corona time, when we couldn't be with 25 people in the lab at the same time. We were working there in shifts, trying to get the most of the time and most of the space. Yeah, and sometimes you have some night shifts there. Yeah, maybe not here, but your career might not be entirely here. Maybe you go to Stanford or to Oxford or whatever else Ford, and there then different rules apply. If you think you're pregnant, if you are pregnant or you think you're pregnant, let always the responsible persons know, so that we can make sure that no harm will be caused to the unborn child. Yeah, this is particularly important if in the lab there's lots of work and with some fruit harming components, just to make sure that you and of course the unborn is safe. So you are becoming biologists. You might at some stage work with RNA and RNA extractions. For RNA and RNA extractions and some other things where we'd like to interrupt protein function, we use very low temperatures, like liquid nitrogen. Don't know if you use liquid nitrogen here, but liquid nitrogen is very cold. It has it gets gaseous at minus 178, something like that, degrees. Yeah. So yes, that's the definition of very cold. This liquid nitrogen, if you don't have a liquid nitrogen plant in your office, which is certainly the case, has to be transported. What is this gentleman with his bottle of liquid nitrogen doing wrong here? Have you seen any liquid nitrogen before? Did you work with it before at some stage? Yeah, it's directly, bubbling, yeah, because it's directly forming from the liquid gaseous form and lots of fumes going out there, yeah, and you simply cannot control it. He is transporting it. What's he doing wrong? Ladies, gentlemen. Yes, please. I never thought of that. Yeah, okay, you're right. This is also a clear no-no. But the worst thing is that this person uses an elevator at all. Liquid nitrogen cannot be handled in sealed containers. That means continuously, liquid nitrogen becomes gaseous nitrogen and will get into the room continuously. What will happen? The entire elevator, once this guy is stuck in the elevator, what we don't hope, the entire room will be easily filled up with nitrogen. He will feel dizzy. He will feel happy. Yeah, but he will suffocate and die if he's not rescued early enough. Think of that. 1 liter of liquid nitrogen forms 700 liters of gas. This guy was transporting easily 50 liters of gas. So you can imagine how many liters that is. And if he's stuck for half an hour in this elevator, let's not think about that. What would happen there? Never use the elevator with liquid nitrogen. Never, 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 ever. Never handle it alone. Always have somebody with you, because if that thingy would have dropped minus 170 degrees on the bottom, if he would have fallen for any kind of reason or slipping with his sandals, great to wear sandals with very cold thingies, he would be instantaneously frozen on the bottom. With lots of nitrogen gas around, nobody would have been able to help him, if not directly at the very first minutes. Never transport liquid nitrogen alone, never in an elevator. We have to take liquid nitrogen from a different facility, from a different institute. So we have a small duo. It looks like one of these milk bottles, and we always have to go with a tour of us there. It looks hilarious, but this is actually the safest way to deal with that. And otherwise, of course, if you have any kind of gas, use proper devices. If you transport them, don't put them on the shoulders. Okay, it looks cool to have 80 kilo of gas on your shoulders, but if you drop it, it goes a couple of 100 meters onto the next campus. You don't want to have them. And when you have them in the lab, secure them tightly with chains to the wall so they cannot fall, certainly. But these are things that you should be aware of all the time. So, right, 2 more things. First, after you finished in the lab, wash your hands. Okay. We have 2 things here in the dispenser. One is pinkish, one is blue. It doesn't mean one is for girls, one is for boys. No, it doesn't. One is hand wash, one is a sterilization. Doesn't matter so far. So far, so good. There's something in the middle. This tube over there. What's that? And why do we have it? And why is this important? This is nothing else than just a kind of cream for skin protection, a typical hand cream. This is becoming a big issue in Germany now currently and in other countries, because if you have to work hours and hours with your latex or nitrile or neoprene glass, what will happen? After a short time, you will get pretty nasty eczema. It can happen. Your skin gets dry, the natural protective measurements of your skin are not functional anymore. Fungi, bacteria can get into your skin and cause eczema, looking like something like that one here. Sorry to show you, but this person cannot hold a pipette or whatever else in the hand for the next couple of months or wear a glove. This will interrupt your PhD, your master, your bachelor, whatever you're busy with in the lab for a couple of weeks or months. So if you notice something's happening here, yeah, make sure that you always protect your skin sufficiently afterwards. Particularly if things are getting itchy, then you know it's about time. All right? One very last thing to bother you with. We talked about that already. Labeling, label stuff. Your reactions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 10 minutes later, you will not know what is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. No idea, no clue. Here, much better, labeling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, now written on that glass itself. Imagine, inside would be something with an organic liquid, with an organic solvent. A slight drop is already sufficient to just remove the label, and you don't know what that is. So label everything that you have thoroughly. As precise as necessary, with your name or your initials, with a date, not only on the lid. You know, you unscrew something, you put the lid somewhere, and you don't know which of the 25 lids are belonging to your original thing. Don't label the lids only. Also label the remainder of the vial only. And if you have something which is toxic or flammable, whatever, at least in the European Union, we need to have the warning symbols also on these bottles. So if you have a subsample of 50 milliliter ethanol Falcon tube, there must be the sticker flammable on it. Just saves life. Even more important than labeling, or equally important than labeling, is your lab book. Don't make any experiment without a lab book. In the lab book, at the very minute you do something, you write up what you are doing. Because trust me, when you get out of the lab, you might have forgotten it. So you write in the lab book what you're doing. You also write in the lab book what might have went wrong. Or if it's a particular hot day and therefore your experiment might have failed, everything that comes into your mind must be in the lab book. This lab book will help you when you write up your thesis at the end to understand what you did. This lab book will help you once you have, after 3 years, the eagerness to conduct further research on that topic, to just continue where you stopped. The lab book will help you. But this lab book will only help you if it's held in a way that you understand, even after a couple of years, what you did there. So this lab book is a nice scribbling, but within a week, you don't know what you did here. And your supervisor must understand what is written in your lab book. Imagine something's happening to you, and your supervisor would like to tell the doctor, oh yes, he was working with that and that. Or most frequently happening, you doing brilliant research, then you leave for another university. Then Dr. Edwin is stuck with your results, and would like to, and you'd like to continue, and you'd like to continue publishing it. But you now take a different career. Now you make big money in banking or whatever else. But still, this data should be somehow published. And it's up to us, to Dr. Edwin or to me, to go to understand, to conduct, to finalize your experiment. And we cannot do that based on something like that. We can better do that with something like that, where nicely written is day by day what you did. Or even better, when it's in a way that also your thoughts about the results are given there as well. I don't think I think my experiment failed because it was a particularly hot day and my whatever melted away. Or I think it went wrong because I miscalculated something. Or I think it went wrong because I had accidentally the pipette in other reagents where they shouldn't be. These are enormous variables. If I see one of my students not having a proper lab book, he or she will have a hard time because we are usually stuck at the end with these lab books. Have them handwritten on your bench. Lab books are mandatory. By law, lab books in Germany must stay in the lab for a period of 15 years, particularly if you work with genetically modified organisms. Therefore, keep it, write it immediately, write everything up. In that moment that you did it, in a way that it will be understandable for your supervisors. It's also for your own safety. Yeah, imagine Monday morning, we go in the lab, you're lying there since Friday afternoon. Yeah, we'd like to know what had happened here. The lab book must stay in the lab, at least in Germany, that's the case. You don't take it outside. And it must be in the lab for 10 years in several cases. So particularly if you work with genetically modified organisms, as I just mentioned. And then Of course, other possibilities are for a lab book, namely electronic lab books, and we have worked a lot with these electronic workbooks. We still keep electronic and usual regular lab books side by side, but the electronic workbooks, they really help us to reflect then later on, what have I done during the day or during the week with my experiment. And trust me, in 5 years, you will be able to regain your experiment and you publish it and get into Science or Nature, given your experiment sufficiently, and without to have to redo everything from the scratch again. And the very last thing here, I skipped now a bunch of slides because we are very far in time. One of the most important things in the lab is being nice to each other and helpful to each other. Lab work is teamwork. You will not gain anything in the lab if you're just working on your own and protect everything. Being nice means respect, of course, all the reagents from others. Don't steal things, don't pick things. Oh, Dr. Edwin still has this beautiful jar of ethanol, clean ethanol. I don't have ethanol, I just take his. No, that's a no, don't do that. But if you have problems, if you have questions, if you have whatever else, ask. Be a team, and then you can easiest achieve basically everything that you'd like to achieve. Independently, if it's your partner in the lab, or if it's your technician, even if it's your supervisor, be nice, be open, and then the world is open to you. And I hope with this, I could make you a little aware about some basics for biosafety and for conducting successful lab research. And who knows, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of you we might come across somewhere in a lab, maybe in Germany, or maybe even still here. Who knows? Thank you. And I'm open to questions.
Yes, thank you. Also, learning from that, in our lab, we don't use laboratory book, but we use logbook, logbook, and then it needs to, because we only proceed how can we borrow from somebody and not stay in the lab like that. So we need to think about that. Thank you, anyway, for remembering us about laboratory lab book.
Lab book, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is it any question? Because we one.
Yes, here's one.
How many more?
Yes, here's one, I think.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. Z, as a last year student of bachelor degree of biology department, and I have 2 questions. The first one, from the example that you serve in the material safety data sheets on your slides, it's also some example that write down like no information available, like the toxicity or the ecological toxicity wrote down like no information available. So how we could handle with the hazardous or maybe chemical compound that well known reported with any information. So how we handle, especially to handle the waste. And the second question is, you give us the information about the flammable or if it's something to it like a fire in our laboratory, but it's sometimes it happen in our university is the fire is because of electricity correlating, and how we could handle with the electricity fire that create. But especially we don't know the central electricity, so we can put off. So I could handle with that situation. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for these interesting questions. The first one was about the missing information on the MSDS, if I recall it correctly. The first one was about the missing information on the safety data sheets, right? If I recall you correctly. Right. This is something that I noticed as well in some of the MSDS. And these data sheets can come sometimes from one particular provider. And sometimes this provider did not do all kind of homework in this respect and said, okay, I don't have any information on that because it was never a topic. Nevertheless, it's possible that you will sooner or later are confronted with this problem. If the provider doesn't say, yes, please dispose it and that way, if he doesn't say that, but you still have it, you still need a way to dispose it, then it would be up to you either check whether an MSDS from a different provider has the same information, or how a similar reagent with similar activity is then usually disposed, for example. Yeah, but these are questions that you can then directly, you must have a safety officer for dangerous goods in the university. Something like this is happening. Therefore, these people are in charge, and they can then bring you to this particular, information, which you do not have at your fingers at the very moment. Okay? So, not knowing, so ignorance is still no excuse, yeah, to say, okay, I just now put everything through the sink because there's no data how to dispose it. It's still our responsibility to do it properly. And if the MSDS doesn't show us, then we have to find another way. The second question was about the electrical fires. This is something you have to ask in every new lab to your to the lab manager or to the safety officer of the lab. It's of every new lab that you enter, you will get a safety briefing. And in the safety briefing, this should be mentioned. And if it's not mentioned, then ask, hey, I don't see these big yellow buttons here, yeah, which are to be pushed once we have electric fire. How do we do that? Is there a switch box, or where is a switch box where then use all the switches, switch it off, and a fuse box, yeah, a fuse box, where I can switch off everything. Not every lab has the same standards, yeah, but it's a good idea to know in advance what to do. Not every lab has a ice shower which is integrated in the sink. Some only have some bottles with a funnel on it that you put on your eyes. Just check in advance. What are the possibilities here? Yeah, just being prepared. It doesn't have to be super duper, yeah, but just one step ahead will help you a lot.
Do we only need to know how to operate the emergency stuff, or we also have to do the simulation for the emergency since we never did that?
I never tried most of the stuff myself either. I never pulled on that cord. Actually, that's a lie. I have to test it regularly. So we stand there with a bucket under the emergency shower and check out whether there's still sufficient water coming out there. Yeah. It's different in every country, yeah, and in every university, and there's the right person to ask you, I guess. I can just provide the information, how I know that, how you at least get a kind of minimum safety handled. You don't have to try a fire extinguisher first before you extinguish fire. However, read in advance what to do, yeah, aim, pull the plug, push it all together. You don't have to, it's dirt easy. Defibrillators, it's the same thing, yeah? You don't try that in advance. It would be dangerous to try it in advance, yeah? But they have these guidelines in lots of languages, in easy language, where in this moment you see somebody lying there, you are guided through all the procedures, what to do. But the important thing is that you try it, that you do it. Otherwise, that person doesn't have a chance. Okay? Thank you.
Yes, that's really correct.
Since we have also a problem with electricity, the mathematical department also make an algorithm about how is the risk about building and etc. Like they have like formulation. So we will still make on that. But if you see our building now, our electricity also not proper. Can you recognize one wrong case in our building for the electricity? Can you recognize? It's close to the canteen on the bridge. What else? The cable. So the cable in this building is shut down, so we use big cable to go to other buildings. Then yeah, please don't use your
I'm all right.
Yeah, okay.
You know, severe things require severe measurements. Yeah, and by the
electricity and box. I tell you, we have to do like that. But yeah, that's why I will not have the certification from outside, only certification from AUN or ASEAN. That's all. That's educational certification, not like professional certification. So you will learn about that. And if you are like surveyor and Esra from ecology lab, you have to yeah, in ENVI lab, you know all of the professional procedure. Okay, I think one more or enough. Is it any information? No question in the chat room? No. For closing, maybe? Everything clear? Yeah, the last one from Alivia. Yeah. Last one.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Alivia from Biology 2020, I'm so sorry. So the question is, when we set up the lab, what's coming first? The equipment for storing chemicals like fume hood or an emergency plan? Like, do we have to put the two far apart?
I don't think that I got the question properly.
Like,
Please repeat.
Equipment for storing chemicals and emergency plan like ice shower or something, and do we have to put the two far apart? Like,
to put them apart. Yeah, usually the chemicals are stored somewhere locked away. Yeah, with closed doors. Of course, the emergency shower shouldn't be where directly chemicals are stored, where which are sensitive to water or something like that. Yeah, but you know, the restrictions, the space restrictions in labs are usually in that way that you have the emergency shower usually at the entrance, because everybody tries to get out. They're usually at the entrance for any kind of reason. And your chemical cabinets are never there. And your electrical equipment are frequently not there either. So don't worry too much about that. Yeah, so don't fear when you need the safety equipment that you will have, that you cause quite some trouble due to the fact that everything is getting wet, etc. This is usually not the case. Did I answer your question? I'm still not sure that I really answered.
Yeah, because we have also a problem with, like Alivia said, we don't care about shower because we only put artificial shower outside and actual artificial if there is inspection, and it is not working. So yeah, that's the real fact. And also for this, yeah, for the everything we don't have emergency plan. Actually, we have only emergency plan like stay as that we never do simulation, but that's also important in our opinion. And also the shelf in the plan, it's mixing everything. So that's our.
Well, at least put them into different basins. Just some plastic basins, only acids, only alkalis. This already helps a lot.
But I have not an idea about how in microbiology lab, because we have 4 labs. In ours, we try to separate that, like Alivia said, separate this one, bottle, this one emergency, this one acid or something. For acid, we have like special cabinet or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have no idea. Is it anything in like okay, yeah? Is it like that? The yeah, the plant. So I think the so chemical, bottle,
well, acids, alkalics, organic solvents.
yeah. No.
Okay, now that you mentioned that you don't have an emergency shower, let's simulate now something in theory, right? Let's assume you have a bad day and you might be in fire. You might be burning. Let's assume, yeah? What do you think you would do? What do you think you would do? You suddenly notice, oh, I'm on fire. Okay, where's the shower? There's no shower. Good. Now you're in the lab. There's no shower. You're on fire. What is happening? What are you doing? Do you think you would do that? I hope you would do that. That would be great. Yeah, with Monday will always work. Okay, no problem. But it's possible, maybe if I would be burning, maybe I panic and I start running. And during running, I would make the fire worse. So if you would see that she is running, what would you do? She's burning and she's in panic and she's running. What can you do? You want to help her, of course. What can you do? You cannot come with a Monday after her. No, you can't. Trust me on that. What can you do?
For us, the easiest way is screening.
Yeah, which you have at hand at every moment, right? You don't have the towel at hand. She is already 50 meters further before you get this towel. What can you do? Oh, yeah. She is running 50, 100 meters away. The extinguisher is 12 kilos. You will not make it. You're right. Extinguisher is always good, yeah, but not if somebody is burning and running away. You will run after her as far as you can. Ideally, you try to catch up with her, and then you force her to the ground. And on the ground, roll her on the ground to make sure that the fire is extinguished then. And then, if the fire is extinguished, then you bring her back to the Monday or to the non-existing emergency shower and cool everything, and then bring her to the doctor. Yeah, but don't look for the fire extinguisher if somebody is running. You will not be able to follow her with a fire extinguisher. Okay, run. Try to bring her gently to fall. Yeah, please gently. Yeah, and roll her on the ground until the fire is extinguished, and then cool it all down. Okay, I hope this will never happen. Yeah, I hope you will never be on fire. Yeah, sorry, I took you as an example because you're just sitting here. Yeah, don't take it personal, but just now hearing that the emergency shower is not around. And even if you have an emergency shower, nobody guarantees that you use it. Yeah, maybe, oh, fire, I'm burning, and you're out of the door and you ignore the emergency shower. Can happen. Okay. More questions?
Thank you, Bill. I mean, there are still some questions that we finished.
Very good.
Okay, we don't need to take a picture. Yeah, okay. I close this
Thank you.
the lecture, and also for 20,000 beds, you have action, yeah. Please make sure you are in the offline uptime because it's obligatory that for the items not going to take on because of the. Okay. Thank you very much. I finish it. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. There are meetings and we have a lot of problems. I mean, in my group.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's okay. This is also learning for us. You just need some toilet.
sorry.